Hello and welcome to a Sons of the Forest video and a The Forest video. Today I will be trying to explain how different ancient artifacts work in the forest in Sons of the Forest. Now these are my own theories on how they work and it's just my basic ideas. Now if you have any like ideas that what they things could possibly be for and how they work, please comment them down below so I can learn myself. Like I said again, this is all just my opinion. You can ignore it or you can think of it as your own. Now, to start off with, I have some video footage of the doors that you can open to go deeper into the caves in the original forest. Now, I noticed that these doors actually only open one way, and it's the way you come from. So as you go deeper, you'll encounter the door, and then you'll place stones or skulls to weigh down a pressured plate to actually push the door open. And you need like a minimum of 3 or 4, max 5, and it'll push the door all the way open. And I thought this was weird because you would think that it would be a two-way door. It's actually not. So once those stones are taken off, the door will only open from that original side, and you'll see in the video what I'm talking about. So it's meant to keep something inside the cave. It's not meant to be a door in the sense. And then there's some archways that you walk through. I don't really know what they're for. They're just like ancient archways that you go through. And there is little parts above the door, like pressured plate. So when you'll see, but there's a chain on the ceiling, and that's actually part of two more things on the ceiling that get clipped up. You'll see it when I show footage of the last mini artifact cave, and you'll see them really good in that one because the ceiling's so tall. But in this clip, they're phased into the ceiling, and I have no clue what those are for. Though those could be like what was originally holding the stones, just like a holder for the ceiling, or maybe it was like a lever to like throw the stones off. Maybe I'm not quite sure myself. Alright, so now I'll show some of the other things that you can find in the original Forest game that were like just kind of random things and maybe some bigger things that go with them. So to start off with, I have some footage of the Sahara Therapeutics. That's the company that was doing research on this stuff in the original Forest. And it shows like their research of the resurrection obelisk. Now, this was their main focus here. It wasn't quite as promising as maybe some of the other stuff they found. And it's so you put a live specimen in the obelisk, and it closes, and then they have some like crazy technology hooked up, so then it transfers like the life force or something from one creature to another, but it has to be a human creature. That's what they've been studying. So you can see that your son Timmy in the game has been used to resurrect Megan, the son of Matthew Cross. And that's not really important. The main idea is that it uses to transfer life force from one living thing to another. And you'll see in the later clip that once a specimen is dead, you cannot use their life force anymore, obviously. And that presents you with the choice: do you take another kid and resurrect your son, or do you abandon saving your son altogether? And then there are also some little cubes you can find around the Sahara Therapeutics building. They look like some crazy like art project or something, but I believe that's what's in there is actually mutated cells from their research. As you'll find out through playing the game, and I recommend playing these games because they are really good in my opinion. But when you like switch life forces, it damages the cells in a way that causes them to regrow and alter in insane ways. That's how like the mutants of the original forest are created. They're not created in the same way as the ones from the second forest. And I think that's really interesting that you what the mutants you find in the original forest are what Sahara Therapeutics created by testing on terminally ill kids, and it's really messed up, and it's almost like 100% failure, and there has not been really any success with these resurrections. They're almost 100% failure. And these cells in these little cubes, they expand in funny ways to like stretch out and string apart, and it's kind of neat to look at, honestly. It kind of reminds me of like a beehive honeycomb pattern, and that does get used in the last room that you walk up to the EMP artifact, or like the mega artifact, and it's in the ceiling and it's pulsing with this electricity, and you can activate it, and Sahara Therapeutics has it set up so it releases an EMP, like electromagnetic pulse, that shuts down technology, and they were trying to sell it as like something used for the government. And it's very interesting on how it works, and it's in a metal cube, and I never noticed that before I turned my brightness up all the way, and it's in a metal cube, which is really weird. Like, to me it makes sense that it's like almost dampening the power, if that makes sense. Like, it restricts it, because before that you walk through the place where it originally was, and you'll see like burnt crispy skeletons, and in my head those people found the artifact, it got activated in some way, and it like sent out a pulse of electricity, and it burnt them to a crisp. They're all cowering in fear as it winds up and it releases this pulse. Now, in my playthrough, I shut it off. That's not the canon ending though. And then I walk through the bottom cave and I open the locked door. Now, this door is different than the other doors in the fact that you have to go get a specific artifact key from the yacht that Matthew Cross was living in, he found, or Sahara Therapeutics found, this key to this little room. And once you find that key and you stick it in the pressure plate sucks down and it reads this key basically, and it opens the door to the mini artifact. And this artifact is different in a different way than the others because it looks similar to the mega artifact. And what it does is when you can click it one way or the other, or you can shut it off. So when it shines blue, it repels the mutants and the cannibals away from you. But when it shines red, it attracts them. And then you can just shut it off and it'll turn off like the main artifact and it'll just spin. It almost creates infinite energy and it'll just spin in there forever. It doesn't really stop, it just stops glowing. And I think that the blue represents putting out of like a wave to their minds directly as the mind is like affected by these artifacts, as you can tell through what you'll find in the caves and what people say. Like it calms them and they'll avoid it because they don't like it. But then the red, it triggers the opposite effect. It angers them. They want to come towards it and they'll be attracted to it. And you'll stick it in the ground and that's when it starts taking effect. And it's weird that it does this, but that's just another thing that proves that these artifacts have an effect on the human mind. And you'll see this throughout the caves. You'll see like a lot of like Christian religious symbols and Bibles and crosses. And obviously, a lot of the people who found their way to the island or the peninsula, it's called, were like pilgrims that were Christian, and their minds were twisted by the artifact. And you can see, like, even if you haven't directly come in contact with it, it affects your mind. And they knew what it was and they feared it, and eventually it led to their deaths. And, like, you can find stuff that implies that, like, a ton of people have found their way to the peninsula and met their end. And the artifact warps the mind. So unless you were resurrected with the obelisk, even if you weren't, you slowly, like, your mind melts away. And eventually you'll turn into a cannibal who's like lost all their sense of self, pretty much. You'll run around trying to eat other people. You have only basic thoughts. It's crazy how that works. But anyway, take a look at it for yourself. All right, so what I'd like to talk about next is the artifacts and blueprints and many of the things that you can find in Sons of the Forest. Now, there is an insane amount of stuff that you can find in Sons of the Forest that has to do with the lore of the game. Like, it took what they did in the first game and turned it up to 10, basically. And so, first, what I want to talk about is the blueprints that you can find across the map. Now, these blueprints are usually created by, or I should say, are only created by the first people or some of the first that came to the island. Now, I believe they came back in like the early 70s that they got here, and over the course of a few months, the artifact affected their mind like the original game did, but to a much greater extent and a much more crazy extent. Now, besides what I'll get into for like later in the video a little bit about like the actual artifacts themselves, the blueprints are what these people created from like ideas or impulses that were put in their head by the artifact. And what this kind of reminds me of is the or the story The King in Yellow. Now, I was just recently informed about this video, or the book, I should say, and it's a very interesting that how it works. So basically, the King in Yellow, you'll encounter him and you'll like your life will be changed, and usually not in a good way. And you should probably go look up a video if you're interested on it, but that's just kind of what it reminded me of. But when you come in contact with the artifact, it affects how you think. So when they encountered it, they started making blueprints for crazy stuff like traps, lights that's not that crazy, but like gore couches and meat chairs. It's a lot of crazy stuff that they came up with. And then the two main things that you want to take a look at are the Sulfite weapon upgrader and the Sulfite armor upgrader. Now, the weapon upgrader, you put Sulfite ore in this like contraption that the artifact put in these people's minds, and it with the electricity running through it, it causes arcs of this blue lightning to shoot into this like into this cauldron and melt the sulfite, and eventually it will like melt the sulfite to a point that the weapon actually absorbs the sulfite and gets coated in it, and it makes the weapon stronger. Now, this does cause the mutants to attack you because they can sense it somehow, and I have no clue how they do it. It's a part of the game. I think it just has to do with like increasing the difficulty, so you just can't upgrade your weapons for free. But there's some implication that they're attracted to the lightning, maybe. And then you can also upgrade two pieces of armor in the game. First is the ancient armor. Now, this armor is unique in the fact that it reduces the damage demons can do to you. Now, you heard that right. There are demons in this game in the literal sense. They are called demons. But they're kind of close to the mutants, except this armor like reduces the damage you take from them, and they burn when you like show the cross to them, and it's an item you can pick up, and they'll burn and die actually from this cross. Now, the interesting thing here to note is that this armor doesn't work for other mutants and cannibals, just demons. So it's a very end game armor. And when you find it, it's just going to be labeled as ancient armor. But when you find the blueprint that is the armor upgrader, you can put the armor in this thing and it will do the same as the weapon upgrader, but for the ancient armor, and it will turn it into soul fight armor, like soul fight, or sorry, golden armor. That's what it's called, and this like allows you to open an endgame door, which you find the armor upgrader by, and that's like an example of the artifact, I believe, changing people's mind as it made that person go put that thing in front of the door, even though they probably didn't know what it was for, the actual upgrader. Now, you can also put bone armor in this upgrader up to 10 pieces, and you can activate it, and it'll turn the bones and coat them in sulfite, and it's actually a really good armor. But I don't really think it's worth upgrading it, in my opinion, but that's just me. It has nothing to do with the lore. Um, and this too attracts mutants to it, which is crazy, and it's very weird. And there is imagery of this golden armor that Mr. Puffton saw in his dreams, which the artifact was actually telling him. And then I do have some footage of the paintings, but not a lot of or none of the painting with the armor in it. I forgot to grab the footage for that. There is one out there and you can look it up yourself. So anyway, here's the footage. Now, I'm gonna play a ton of clips of things that you probably won't understand. I just want you to take a good look at. And then after, I'll try to sum everything up before I talk about the demon cave or the like cave to hell basically to the cube. And then after that, I'll sum everything up again and try to make sense of the stuff that you're seeing. So take a good look at some of this stuff. There'll be pages from the original people who came to the island. There'll be some talk of artifacts. They'll be grabbing artifact pieces. And there's just a lot of stuff. You'll see some crazy gold structures and a lot of different things that you should take a look at, and then I'll explain them.
Stay close.
Now, did any of that stuff confuse you? Because I know it did me, and that's why I made this video. So, basically, the gist of that stuff is what I think they mean, is what I should say, is when the people who originally found the artifact, they found it, and one of them realized it was evil, and then they broke it into 6 pieces, minus the cage that holds the pieces, and they spread it across the island and hid it in the caves. And you'll know you're by an artifact piece when the environment of the cave changes. What I mean is, you'll stumble across a ton of crosses, more of this golden sulfite structure, and a lot of skeletons, mostly hanging. And that implies that they either killed themselves or someone hung them. Now, this is crazy that they would all do this, and it implies some dark themes, but this game is full of dark themes. And I don't know, I'm just at a loss for words, really. Um, but anyway, the artifact pieces that they hid in these caves actually altered the ground and the environment around them. You can see this in one of the caves. The actual boards they use to hold one of the pieces are about ready to rip off the wall. And it's like some demon crazy stuff in there. And the artifact pieces actually arc, like they'll shoot this electricity and this power off of them. And you can see in a lot of the caves, the skeletons are actually trying to reach out and grab the artifact, much like the small artifact in the original game. And these people too were either fried, or they were fried and then transformed into soul-fight skeletons by the power of this artifact. And I do not know why our character can pick up this artifact piece without being transformed and like being crispified, basically. But these original people were able to pick it up and use the artifact to learn about it before they hit it. And you can find symbolism, or like foreshadowing, I should say, in the actual cave of the on the wall. There's a depiction of 7 people in this gold cube, and that is foreshadowing the cube. Inside the cube is safe. So, and I'll explain that in a little bit when I get to it. Um, but you'll see that in the cave, and you'll also see. I was confused when I first saw it, but good thing I recorded it, because now that I'm thinking about it, it it's another one of these like old cave paintings, and it's more gold people around this circle with another ring around it. And like, I thought it was the sun for some reason, but now that I think about it, it's the artifact and like its ring around it, and that's when they first came in contact with the artifact and activated it. And I never realized that until now. And I don't know. There's more proof of this artifact and the cube altering the terrain. So you'll see a ton of like this sulfite structuring and the sulfite ore that can only be found on this island. And it has healing properties somehow, and it has this electrical property. It's insane the usefulness of the stuff, and it's so abundant here in this island. And you can go and like explore these places, and there's a ton of this golden structure around. I have multiple clips of it in there. Like I heard one dude describe some of it as like looking like a door, and there's like these four pedestals and there's gaps in between. And I could see how you could think that is a door, but in my way, I thought it was more like pillars holding something up, like a thin pillar or like a wall almost. But I could see how you could think it's a door too. That's not a bad idea of what it could be. Like I said, none of this stuff makes sense. Why it's there? What's the point? It doesn't really make any sense. And that's why I made this video to try and make sense of it, even though it doesn't really. It's very cool. It's very interesting. There's a lot of different like stuff End Night put in this game, and it's just pure madness. But I'll try to explain it more. So eventually, you'll stumble across this spaceship, and there's a lot of this more golden stuff. You'll go deep enough in the cave system to stumble across demons, and that's where you really first encounter them in the game. And you can break into the ship, which they have the back boarded up by the original people who stumbled upon it. And in this cave, you'll find people in spacesuits. Now, this confused me a lot at first, but it makes sense that there is a spaceship in there with people in spacesuits. But when you enter the spaceship, it's wild because this alien spacecraft isn't alien at all. It's man made. Now, I think in their new game that's coming out soon here, uh, the third game that they're coming up with, it shows a human in a spaceship, and that's like something crazy they're doing for their next game. It's a really neat idea. But this is perhaps one of those spaceships that got transported into this world somehow. And that's probably how all this gold stuff, the sulfite, first came into this world. It accidentally got dimensionally swapped over. Now it's a wrecked ship. There's like rock and debris on top of it, and there's this like giant circle of sulfite just arcing down and like striking the ship over and over again. It's really crazy. It's really cool. And all these dudes in spacesuits are just dead around it. And you'll enter the ship, you'll read it, you'll be like, "Oh man, this is man-made and I have no clue what this means." But in one of the driver's seats of this spaceship is a dead skeleton of one of the original people with the artifact, and he's in the ancient armor, and he has the case for the artifact in his hand. And when you take the armor and the artifact, the skeleton will explode. And that's weird. I never really thought about it. Maybe it'll just fall apart without the armor holding it together. And this armor is wicked looking. And I don't know. I suppose they found this artifact and entered this cave and just came in contact and were like, "Oh, we need to seal this guy in here." It's crazy. But I don't actually believe he originally came with the ship. And that's just my opinion. Believe what you want to believe. But everyone else in the cave is wearing spacesuits, and this one guy's not. I think it's a little weird. It's a different artifact. But anyway, there is some other stuff in there. There's some notes. I'll try to sum it up at the end here if I didn't get it. And I'll show you at the end boss fight in the final artifact form here.
What is this place? They're not like the others. So many bodies. Oh, God. It's time. No, 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 no! 15, 14, 13, 12, 12. I've seen this before. I saw it in a dream. This was supposed to fix me. It's making me worse. What did you see? What did you see? What was in the cube? What was in the cube? made it. You're okay.
Oh god, they're coming.
They're getting closer. We have to leave. Quick, get in.
What is that?
Don't go near it. Don't touch it. It wants you to stay. Don't listen to it. Come on, get back here. I'm gonna leave without you. Don't! You're on your own. Good luck.
All right. So after witnessing all of that, and I didn't give you guys much of an explanation, I just wanted to show you all the stuff before I would explain it. And there is some stuff I didn't find or didn't put in, but you should just get the gist of what I'm saying anyway. You don't really need to see the stuff to understand it, and you can look it up yourself. So the story of Sons of the Forest with the artifacts is in the 70s, fishermen came to the island with the Bible of Dimensional Ascension. Now, this book is sorta important. Like, if you don't know a lot about it, it doesn't really impact the game. But if you want to understand the faith of the cultists and the original people on the island, you need to understand this book. No, I don't believe it's an actual real book. I think all the information that you get on this book does come from this game, and there are parts of this game that are completely fictional. That's a big word there for a guy like me. But anyway, so you'll find the notes. There'll be like a yellow paper, and one of them talks about the inversion of the island, being that the inversion zone, the cube that you travel through, will invert you into Site B. Now, I'm not quite sure if this is talking about the original, the Forest Island, or the actual, um, I think it's called the Realm of Golden Promise, and that's what is called in the Dimensional Ascension book that I talked about. It's called the Realm of Golden Promise. Now, I like this name. I never really thought of it that way, but with how they saw it, they haven't. Another note says, "I haven't slept in 3 months. There's something in the caves." It's talking about the artifacts. Now, they wandered in these caves and they stumbled across the artifact. Now, this artifact was not broken in pieces how we find it. It was in the final cave that you find with the artifact piece. I believe that's where it was originally sitting on that pedestal. And when you go to this and assemble it, it turns into this weird looking thing. It doesn't actually look anything like how you find it, but it is very interesting to look at. And when you actually assemble it, it turns into this thing. You can feed it with pieces of sulfite, and it will upgrade building structures to make them stronger, and it will turn them into a gold looking thing, coat them in sulfite, and it will make them double as strong. And then you can also use it with some of the blueprints you can find to teleport your body across the island. And you can use it to, there's another blueprint you can find that you can use to turn killed like cannibals and mutants in the soul fight, which is really interesting in the implication that this dead matter will be converted into sulfite, which I think is what you're seeing in the last cave. You can really see it good with the skeletons, and that they'll actually be the sulfite skeleton, but their feet and around them are sulfite is sprouting off. So I believe that the sulfite is actually dead matter that is changing forms. So that's sulfite basically, and it's a little crazy stuff there. And that's the artifact. And the island itself is described as a creature. Now, I don't understand this, and well, I do understand it, but like only to a limited degree, because the island, it wants you to stay. It wants you to like live there forever, you'll find a note. It says, "Never leave the island." And this is also where you can get the dimensional ascension, like the only page we have from this book. And it's the same page that you'll find all over, and you'll find it floating around in the last cave. It's everywhere. It talks about the sons. Now, I believe this is where the game gets its name. Sons of the Forest. Very neat. And it's actually referring to people who struggle with this faith, and they encounter this doorway to a golden dimension, and it transports them, and like they're searching for this golden dimension or whatever. And I believe that this is the cube that they're encountering. They just got a misconception of it, and that has a lot of implications there. But anyway, that's why all the cultists show up to the island. They're searching for this, and there's a book about it. And you actually see the the realm of golden promise when you enter the cube, and it briefly dimensionally swaps you. Now, that is crazy because it not only dimensionally swaps you on like certain points, it will also like change your soul, if that makes sense. You'll see like all these ghosts around you. I don't know if they're like parallel universes of yourself, parallel versions, or if they're actually your soul, like getting fragmented. And when you go over, you will see what's referred to as echoes of the past or remnants of the abyss. And that's those ghosts that like fly around you, and they like circle you, like that one mutant by your feet. And then the cube resonates with your armor, and you'll see like you start to shake with it on, and like Timmy freaks out because he's not wearing the armor and he's already a mutant, so it like freaks him out. And when it opens again and it stops showing you the other dimension, it opens to uh I can't say his name, I'm not gonna try to pronounce it. The silver shirt guy who tried to enter. He is terribly mutated. Now I want to read you a quote from the Dimensional Ascension Ephesians 32:80-90. The more wicked his heart, the more grotesque the creature that dwells within. Now, obviously, that means the more evil you are, the more crazy your like switch of your body when the cube goes off will be. And obviously, the radius of the cube has some effect too in contact with soul fight. Now, the original people who came in contact with this, they probably had like a little effect. Same effect that Mr. Puffton gets when he comes to the island. And I don't know how to explain it, but the more wicked your heart is, the more evil you are, the greater the effect the cube has on you, which is insane to think about. But that's why this guy mutates so horridly. He's close to the cube and he's evil. Now, if you're underground when the cube goes off, it will turn you into a mutant. Now, it's obviously because underground is closer to where the cube is, and I think the island actually nullifies some of the effects of the dimensional shift on the surface, so it'll just like turn you crazy. It's a cannibal, but they're not the same. The cannibals will actually fight the mutants, and they're fundamentally different. And it's wild. But in the end, you'll fight your way through the cave to hell, basically. You'll fight a giant demon. You'll beat it. You'll find the sons or the cultists that believe themselves to be the sons dead. They obviously died fighting the demons or trying to escape them. And you'll enter the cube. It'll go off. You'll barely make it in time. And then you'll make it back to the surface, and then Silver Shirt guy in his mutant form will break through the ground and ask you what you saw, and he's beyond gone. So he'll fight him. You'll defeat him, obviously, if you're good at the game, but he's a tough boss fight. And when you defeat him, you'll be given the choice. You'll walk up to the helicopter with Eric LeBlanc, Timmy's dad, and the original protagonist of the Forest game. Now, that's his name, Eric LeBlanc, and he resurrected Timmy. And that's why Timmy is a mutant. He gained the mutant powers from the resurrection obelisk. Now, you'll be given the choice to stay or leave the island. And you'll get this choice when the mutants try to attack the helicopter to keep you on the island. This is more of the island in like forcing its will on people. It will send these mutants, these deformed people that it affected, to try to keep you on the island. It wants people to stay. It does not want you to leave again. And the artifact reacts to this, and it causes all this lightning to strike down and blow up the mutants and the soldier team that came there with Eric LeBlanc. Now, Timmy will try to convince you to leave, and he'll say stuff like, "Don't go, it wants you to stay." And that's crazy to me because it further proves that N Knight wants you to know that this artifact is part of the island and it wants you to stay there. Like that note, never leave the island. And it's wild. It's a wild ride, but eventually you'll pick up the last piece of the artifact and assemble it into that thing that I talked about earlier, the main artifact. And it's difficult to explain. It seems like the dimensional shift brings things over. It's not just a one-way gate, if you understand that. It seems like it switches things over and it goes two ways. It's a two-way door. And it's just wild. The Some of the notes you find in the doctor's office in this game, he's referred to as like Doctor something. I'm not good with names. But anyway, this doctor realizes too late that the countdown that the cube has that they found is actually going to be when the artifact activates. And it's crazy that he realizes this too late and nobody listens to him. And the only way to survive when the artifact activates the golden cube is to be inside the cube or to not be on the island. If you're on the island, it will affect you. Now, it depends. The degree of how it affects you can change. Like, if you're not a bad person, it'll obviously affect you less. AKA children, the children of Sons of the Forest, like, I don't know how to explain this. Megan Cross and Timmy LeBlanc have a less effect because they're children. Um, Virginia Puffton, it has a less effect on her because she's not evil. She's a good person. Kelvin, it has less an effect because he's brain damaged. He has like a concussion to severe degree, and he is not really capable of doing stuff. So that just proves further that this effect on people is like within your desires. And we are a good person. We try to help people. We fight demons, obviously. And we're like a press guy, always trying to learn the truth. And we go there and it doesn't have this great effect on us because we're good. We're a good guy. We're the main character. Um, but it's definitely crazy. There's definitely some like crazy stuff that happens here. It's awesome. But there's also a lot of talk of dreams in this game. There's the magazine about dreams in one of the caves that you can find. I looked at it. I got a clip of it. Mr. Puffton talks about his dreams. The original settlers talk about their dreams. Um, you'll. I haven't slept in 3 months. There's something in the cave that implies with sleep. Um, they get dreams about the the realm of Golden Promise, and you'll find images of like the twin planets above it with the golden city below. And that kind of reminds me of the Good King in Yellow again, twin suns setting in the lake of Carcosa. But I don't believe it's the same. It might have took inspiration from it. I don't know, but it's what it reminds me of. And um, a lot of talk about dreams. It's really weird. The artifact puts itself in your mind. It wants to control you. It wants you to stay there. I mean, a lot. I'm trying to think of like anything I might have missed. I'm kind of drawing a blank here. I think that's all. So if I missed anything or if you want to see more, like subscribe to my YouTube channel, like and follow, like comment below if I missed anything or if I should cover anything else. Obviously, this stuff is all my opinion. Like, if you don't like it, don't listen to it. You're entitled to your own opinion, obviously. Like, I'm monkey brain, so I just put this how kind of I would understand it. But if you know anything else or want to share anything else, comment it below and I'll maybe release another video trying to explain everything better or just like do separate videos on different topics. Thank you. Goodbye.